Hey guys, I'm Rich from NeoWin. Today we're unboxing the Lenovo ThinkBook 13S. I almost said ThinkPad, but this is not a ThinkPad. So Think is Lenovo's business brand. Okay, so we have ThinkPads, Think Center, Think. So I've reviewed a lot of ThinkPads. If you follow my reviews, you've undoubtedly seen me review a ThinkPad at least one point or another. I review a lot because they make a lot of them. They have the X1 series, the Yoga, the Carbon, the T series, which is the most popular. I reviewed two of those. Then there was the E series, the X series, the L series. I review a lot of ThinkPads. So, ThinkPads are very popular. They're wonderful PCs. They're my personal favorite. They have great keyboards, and that's what's most important to me. A lot of nice displays. There was the OLED a couple years ago, and now they have Dolby Vision. Anyway, a lot of people don't like them though. A lot of people asked me what PC they should buy. I'd say that my favorite's the ThinkPad X1 Yoga, almost always, depending on what people want. And they say, I would buy a ThinkPad, but they're so ugly. And now I don't agree with this, but I've heard it from from a few people that they don't like how ThinkPads look. Generally, they're black. There's silver ones as well. And I feel like Lenovo is kind of moving away from this a little bit. The new X1 Yoga is actually aluminum, and it's a gray color. And ThinkBooks are aluminum. So basically, if you take away what makes a ThinkPad, and that kind of leaves you with ThinkBook. And I'll get more into that. So this is aimed at small to medium-sized businesses. This is the 13S. There's also a 14S. You can probably guess that this one has a 13-inch display and the 14S has a 14-inch display. Okay, so let's get this open. All right, we'll just pop this open. Very basic box that this comes in, and that's not surprising. Let's just get this little piece of foam out of here. It's not surprising. Business laptops often come in that, basic cardboard box like you see here. And the reason for that is because for businesses, you're probably never going to see the box that it comes in. It's easy for IT departments to stack. So that's what that's all about. A little bit of paperwork in here. We have a charger, which is the cable. And if we dig, I have a brace on my wrist, making it harder to stick my hand in there. We have a 65 watt, Lenovo's rectangular charger. I call it USB Type A shaped charger because at some point, if you get this laptop, at some point you will try to either stick a USB Type A cable in the power port, or you'll end up trying to stick the power cable in a USB Type A port. Okay, so that's what's in the box. Nothing surprising. The laptop's in there, and of course the power cable's in there. So let's get this out of the plastic. And very nice. It's made of aluminum, silverish gray color. It's not as dark as the X1 Yoga. We have this ThinkBook logo, which is new because it's a new brand. And then we have a Lenovo logo up on the top here. Kind of surprising because they took the Lenovo logo off of ThinkPads a couple years ago. On the X1s, they replaced that with a fancy new X1 logo, and on the non-X1 models, there's just nothing there. So it's kind of surprising to see them put it on ThinkBook. So there you have it. So what's new here? All right. Remember, business laptop. What do you see that's different here? You don't see a track point. There would on a ThinkPad there would be a track point there. See, here's the thing. The track point is not for everybody, and there are a few things about ThinkPads that are really just not for everybody, and so you can make this laptop for those people because really there's like over a dozen ThinkPad models, and they all have that track point. We got a fingerprint sensor in the power button over here, which should be pretty cool. I believe it will scan your fingerprint when you boot up the machine. And on ThinkPads, they usually keep it just over here. And I feel like this is Lenovo's chance to really break away from that ThinkPad design that they've used since they've owned the brand. Since they got it from IBM. The first ThinkPad was over 20. There was a 25th anniversary model that I think was 2017. I did review that one. It was pretty cool, but obviously that was IBM at the time. So, but they've been sticking to that design language. There's been obviously changes over the years, but this is their chance to depart from that, and it's pretty cool. They're not going super high-end and premium with ThinkBook just yet. The 13S and the 14S are the first of what will probably be many, depending on how these do. And so what this has, it's got a Core i5, and it's a Whiskey Lake non-V-Pro Core i5 8265U. So it's not the 8365 or a Core i7 or anything like that. 8 gigs of RAM, 256 gigs of storage. You could definitely spec it out if you want. It's got a 1080p display. I don't believe there's touch, but we're going to take a closer look at this in a second. Okay, so there is a little bit of bad news here. If we plug in this USB Type-C cable, we can see that it is not charging. Not cool. That is... It says 20 hours remaining, by the way, which is kind of cool. But I don't like machines that won't charge via the USB Type-C port. I assume that this is a decision that was made with businesses in mind, because I think Lenovo is assuming that the businesses that buy this are going to have some of those Lenovo chargers lying around. I wish that they used both at least, but it really bums me out that there's no option for USB Type-C charging. So here's that power port. Like I said, shaped very much like a USB Type-A port. HDMI, USB Type-C, USB. Oh, this is actually 3.1 Gen 2, so that's supporting 10 gigabit per second speeds, 3.5 millimeter combo audio jack, and then over on this side, we've got two USB 3.1 Gen 1 Type A ports. One of those is always on, as you can see, so you can use it to charge your stuff. And yeah, so there's no physical buttons above the trackpad. That's something that you would find on any ThinkPad. And the reason that those kind of exist is because you have that track point, you need something to click with it. The keyboard's a little more shallow than you would find on a clamshell ThinkPad, at least, although it's still very comfortable. So you should still get a very nice keyboard, and we'll find out more about that as I review it. So it's like I said, the best way to think about it is it's a ThinkPad without being a ThinkPad. It's taking away those things that some people love and some people don't love. So it's giving Lenovo that chance to do something different. No touch in the display here, as we can see, although it's a pretty nice display, I gotta say. I like it. It's, for an anti-glare display. Anti-glare displays aren't always nice. They can look a little washed out. So if we look on the top here, there's the Think Shutter Privacy Guard. And if we switch this, we can see that it will block the camera or not, depending on how you have it switched. And that's just one of those features that Lenovo introduced a while ago in ThinkPads, and it's meant to make it so you don't have to put a piece of tape over the display anymore, and which is what a lot of people do. If we look at the software that's pre-installed, here's another thing. It has McAfee on it. I don't think I've ever seen any Think branded device with McAfee on it. And so this is obviously going to be one of those things that I uninstall, because obviously I'm going to do a factory reset before I really go in on this thing, because it comes signed in with a pre-made Lenovo account. So I'll be getting rid of that, signing into my own Microsoft account, and then uninstalling McAfee. Well, I'm really sad to see that on there. For a business device, I feel like we see pre-installed antivirus more on consumer devices, so that kind of bumps me out. I'm against all all pre-installed antivirus, really all antivirus at all. So I've just turned it off because I do want to try something. Let's try booting this up. I there's something I've seen. It happens on Huawei laptops. Yeah. So it just logs you in just like that. That's awesome. I've seen it on Huawei laptops and LG, and what it is it scans your fingerprint when you boot up the PC, so you don't have to scan it again after you. By the way, that booted up really fast, which was really cool. Dell doesn't do that. Dell puts fingerprint sensors in the power button, but Dell thinks it's a security concern, and the idea is that you might walk away from your laptop in the time that it takes to boot up. And I disagree with that completely, because I think that people will get to know their laptops and know that, hey, I can't walk away from this because it's gonna sign me in. The other thing is that one is just how fast this booted up. All the Dells that I've used that don't have this feature do take much longer to boot up. So this is the ThinkBook 13S. There's not really much else to show because it's just it's a metal laptop, and I think it looks really nice. It's I like the shade of grayish silver that Lenovo used on this thing. I think it's a fine looking device. So I was just looking at the models that Lenovo offers for this PC. It starts at $583.20, which is super low price, especially for a business device. And that gets you, obviously, 13-inch 1080p. They all have the 1080p display, same display. But that gets you 4 gigs of RAM and 128 gigs of storage. This model is the next one up at $663.20. And that's Core i5, the same Core i5, 8265U, 8 gigs of RAM and 256 gigs of storage SSD. And then there's 839.20, same 8 gigs of RAM, but this one has a Core i7 8565U and has 512 gig SSD. And then there's for 919.20, you get that with 16 gigs of RAM. So one thing that's interesting here that you want to take note of is that there's no customization option. If you go to buy a ThinkPad from Lenovo.com, you can pick and choose the components you want. You can get this processor, this RAM, this storage. You don't get those kind of options with this. There's just those 4 configurations that I just mentioned. So you can get it up to a Core i7 8565U, 16 gigs of RAM, 512 gigs of storage, which solid specs. 256 gigs of storage is not quite there for me, but 512, 16 gigs Core i7. There's no V Pro options, which depends on what you need for your business. If you want V Pro, you probably want a ThinkPad anyway. So that's fine. 2.9 pounds. It actually feels really good to hold. Just feel like it has this kind of smooth and cool to the touch. It's quite nice. I love the design. There's speakers on the bottom here, as you can see. It's Harman Audio. So that actually kind of surprised me because I've seen Dolby Audio in a lot of Lenovo products. So Harman, sure. So lastly, we can take a look at, this is the ThinkPad T490S. And it's one of, I believe it's the only ThinkPad clamshell that I have left in my possession. I go through so many ThinkPads, they come and go. I believe this is the T490S, right? That's the last one I reviewed. So we can take a closer look at the differences between these two devices. Okay, trackpad, track point, no track point. There's physical buttons above the trackpad. No physical buttons over here. The fingerprint sensor is located over here. It's in the power button on this one. So these are very different machines. And if you look at ThinkPads, and really this is what I want to get across, because if you look at ThinkPads, they're very much there are things about them that are very much the same across the entire lineup. Like the track point and the physical buttons. The keyboards, not exactly the same, but very similar. The design language. So this is Lenovo's chance to really do something new and get it into the business's hands. Some of my issues with this PC is no USB Type-C charging. That's a big one for me. There's also, it seems very much like a consumer laptop. And when I say this, I mean that all those things that differentiate it, ThinkPad, like the mil-spec testing, are not there. And so there are some things, like some of the security features, the secure fingerprint sensor, Think Shutter, privacy guard. So some of that stuff is there. It's also spill resistant. It's meant to be pretty durable, although the reviewer's guide does not mention anything about the mil-spec testing that ThinkPads get. It can handle 60 cc's of water dropped on the keyboard. It says extreme temperatures and vibrations, so I assume that there are some similar quality tests to what ThinkPads go through. And the thing is, I can see a lot of this stuff happening in a consumer laptop as well. You know, I also review a lot of HP EliteBooks, and those things are phenomenal. HP has its own set of business features. A lot of it has to do with security. Again, businesses, security is super important. So HP has SureView. That's the privacy guard where if someone's looking over your shoulder, they can't see what you're looking on. Lenovo has something like that as well. And what I'm getting at is that HP's EliteBooks have their own set, a whole wide set of security features and business features, and Lenovo ThinkPads have that too. I'm just not sure how that applies to ThinkBook as much. It seems like a great laptop. Can't charge the USB Type-C, but it seems like a great laptop, and it seems like a great laptop for everybody. I don't know why it's just aimed at small businesses, because it seems to get the job done on its own. I assume that it charges the way it does, again, because businesses have chargers lying around. And if you're a business that uses a lot of ThinkBooks or ThinkPads, you're going to have some of those Lenovo chargers. The only problem is that newer ThinkPads have ditched that charging port, except for the ones with the workstation ones that need wattage that's higher than USB Type-C can provide. So you can see that it's really not sitting well with me that you can't charge the USB Type-C. It's not that uncommon in devices at this price point. Like, I just reviewed the Acer Swift 3, which is actually a $900 laptop that has a barrel charging port, and you can't charge through the USB Type-C port. But it is what it is. I'll just have to take that for what it is. I like that it's 2.9 pounds. I think it feels very good to hold. I have to say, there are different laptops. You could give me another 2.9 pound laptop and I'd say it doesn't feel good to hold. And I think it has to do with the way that the weight is distributed. This feels very good. I think it has a very modern design, a modern look. I like the ThinkBook logo. Again, going back to the ThinkPad, this logo has been there forever, and it really doesn't feel very modern, does it? So they did refresh it a little bit on the X1s, and it's the same logo, but it's black and shiny, but they're still using that on the non-X1s. So I like the way this looks. I like the way it feels. It seems like a great device, and I'm probably going to give it a great review. So stay tuned for that. I'll have a review in 3 weeks or so, depending on how the review queue sorts itself out. And that's it. I'm Rich from NeoWin. Have a great night.